Thank you, Jocelyn, Max. It's a pleasure to be able to follow you guys. Justice class of 2021, are you excited today? Are you proud of your accomplishments? Let's hear it, come on guys. You guys have come 4 years in the making, actually from kindergarten, and maybe even before. I want to follow in Maxwell's lead to acknowledge los padres, las madres, el ahali, el ummahat wal abbahat that got us here today, our families. Join me in thanking them, and it's my distinct privilege, of course, that my own are here today. Justice class of 2021. You've developed resiliency this year. That's fancy talk for being tough. You did this by overcoming obstacles, like really, late nights, dealing with Blackboard Collaborate, and before this year, enduring things like the pacer in PE. Yikes. For just a second, I want you to think back at the hardest thing you went through in the past 4 years. Now I want you to think that you're here because you overcame that thing, even if you never imagined you could. And you came out alive despite COVID, literally and figuratively. Y'all won the bell against False Church. Let's hear it for that. And as Principal Eck mentioned, broke records that haven't been set since 1984. Y'all, that's just a year before my dad graduated from here. You managed your stress after struggling through degrees of anxiety or depression, perhaps feeling isolated, confused, forgotten, or just plain old tired. Some of you crushed your IEP goals, juggled work shifts, and more than half of you, folks, hear this out, more than half of you learned English during your time in FCPS. You learned a new language and became successful and are walking across the stage today. You all entered a sea of people you didn't know and learned more about yourself through it. And hopefully you'll learn a thing or two from class too. The world sees the accolade, the diploma, the fruit of all your years. Yet be reminded of the details of your struggle. Recuerden la lucha y que ustedes ya la vencieron. تذكروا النضال والجهاد الذي قدمتموه لتأتوا هنا. And don't take for granted that you overcame that. You learned how to rise. You prevailed. You are here today. And there is nowhere anyone can tell you to go when you set your mind to be here. Whether you're graduating with a 4.0 or barely above the minimum, know that you will continue to rise, you will prevail in all that you set your mind towards. Sus futuros están en sus manos. مستقبلكم في أيديكم أنتم. Today we checked off a box in your academic journey. As a human being, you have developed and you have grown. We have many graduations in FCPS, and today I want it to be loud and clear for this audience. You are the Justice class of 2021. You class, you're made for something different, something bigger. Esta clase es especial, único, fue hecha por la justicia. هذا الفصل مكون لشيء أعظم وأكبر لتحقيق العدالة في مجتمعنا. And for that, I owe you a special congratulations from my heart to hopefully the hearts of almost all, but all of my seniors. Felicidades a mis familias hispanohablantes. ألف مبروك للعائلات الناطقين باللغة العربية. In Vietnamese, Xin Chuk Mong. In Amharic, Inkwan Des Alacho. In Urdu, Mubarako. In Dari, Tabrik Basha. In Somali, Hambayo. In Bengali, Obhi Nondon. You, class, are a microcosm of our world. Let's hear it for that. You are unique. Over the past 4 years, you all kicked off the first ever Black History Month assembly to ensure that we confront our history and answer honestly about the ills of our past so that we can correct their legacy today and for the future. You then celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month and participated in the first lesson on Asian American and Pacific Islander History Month. You decided that we cannot exist in our world without learning meaningfully about our neighbors. And your Girl Up chapter set the record for the county. You set an example for every school to provide girls with the necessities they need in our restrooms. Something schools in Fairfax had never done before. You were the first school to engage in the Metro Pass program, to make it loud and clear that socioeconomic status, how much money your family has, is not and cannot be a setback that we accept in our society. Everyone, no matter how much money their family makes, is dignified and deserves an equal chance at life and success. And you, class of 2021, Justice class of 2021, understand that. Ustedes comenzaron el primer equipo de equidad en el condado de Fairfax. لقد أسستم أول فريق للمساواة الأكوري في مقاطعة Fairfax. You, class, set a model for the entire county by starting FCPS's first equity club, now known as the Equity Team, which, by the way, now is in every high school. Huge shout out to Jocelyn McCullough for her vision, and Miss Corey Haynes, the teacher, for her leadership in supporting and empowering students despite the pushback. Let's hear it for them, guys. They empowered your voice. Your model, Justice, class of 2021, moved the superintendent of the 10th largest school division in the country to follow your lead to teach with courage. And you pushed to incorporate that in the school schedule because you understand that social justice is only political for those who can afford to ignore it. And that educating our future means we are all in this together for every one of us, and that we are all on the same side against hate towards anyone. You understand that neutral is another word for complicit, and you have made a choice to take a stand. Be proud of yourselves. I want to hear it for y'all. Let's hear it for this class. You also decided to see past the lines that life sets up to divide us. Your class decided to combine the ESOL classroom with the student leadership class. Because for you, the essence of our humanity is infinitely more powerful than the limits of our tongues and the languages we speak. In fact, they enrich our experiences. You recognize that diversity is necessary at every level, especially in leadership and in decision making. Over 200 of you tutored or engaged in pack leaders to mentor peers because you understand that we do not thrive until we all lift each other up, that our successes are not worth celebrating until we all come along, until our most vulnerable are uplifted, until every single one of us is able to cross that finish line. And you were there for one another. Let's hear it for that. Justice, class of 2021. We live in a world that needs your leadership. A world that is so desperate for your human perspective, for your values, for the character you have been developing and continue to build within you. The world may try to quiet you by deciding for you what's cool, what's weird, what is or isn't objective. It may try to convince you that what you hold dear is too different to be accepted. But who gets to decide? You are walking into a world that will be uncomfortable when you seek to cause good trouble, and that may seek to intimidate you or make you think that the truth is controversial. As we speak, there are those who see the ways you are different before they see your humanity, and they seek to divide us. El mundo va a tener dificultades, muchos y grandes, y la mayoría no va a tratar a toda la gente de la misma manera. Pero esta es exactamente la razón por la que tu misión es tan importante. ستواجه صعوبات كثيرة وكبيرة، ومعظم الناس لن يعاملوا الآخرين بشكل منصف أو عادل، ولكن هذا هو بالضبط سبب أهمية مهمتكم لتأسيس العدالة في مجتمعنا. That's exactly why I'm here to tell you to remain steadfast, to keep your eyes on the prize like civil rights leaders of the past would have told us, and to remember your purpose in all of this. Justice. You are the justice class of 2021. To get up when you're shot at, to lift up others who nobody is speaking for, to be true to yourself, and to know that the road towards justice is hard, and that's to be expected. People cower under pressure. Human nature doesn't like change. The average person breaks down or gives in when the going gets tough. Adults do this all the time. But you all have developed resiliency, and you're prepared. You, class, you are the justice class of 2021. You have learned not to give up. You have learned to keep your head high. You have learned that the world is more beautiful when we come from all kinds of places and choose to be friends, despite what anyone else has to say. Let's hear it for the friendships, the bonds, the love that's amongst this class. Let's hear it for the model that we set for the world and how we can come together from all walks of life and all places around the world. So how will you cultivate an undying spirit? How will you shape your character, your moral compass, to be mighty, to be fearless, to be unwavering and strong even when it seems the entire world is against you? It is your task to live up to your namesake. Now, class, I would like to paint a picture for you, for the class of 2021. You, the justice class of 2021, represent our world in your makeup. First, let us acknowledge the stolen land of the Manahoic people, on which we have learned, lived, and on which we celebrate today here in Fairfax. This theft is a reminder to us of what happens when we delay justice, when we don't speak up, when we don't stand up in time. Now, graduates, I'm going to do something a little unconventional. Hang in there with me. It's your special day. Everyone, please stand up. Graduates, please stand up. So there are 505 of you here today. Let's imagine, and it is in fact the case, that you represent our world in numbers. But let's consider all of what I'm about to do estimations, okay? I don't need any math folks checking me on my numbers. But I'll welcome it. If you represented our world, about 3% of you would have died at birth, and just under 2% would have died from disease. First row of students, please be seated. The rest of you have survived infancy. Of those remaining, 4.5% would have passed before the age of 5, from lack of clean water, from disease, or inadequate health care. Of those who survive, at least another row will be lost by the age of 14 for health complications, avoidable injury, or war. Man-made reasons. May the second 2 rows please sit down. The rest of you survived to the age of 14. For those surviving, about 13% of you have unsafe drinking water. Would the next row please be seated? And the next row. and the next. About 22% of you would not have access to electricity, and only 30% actively use the internet. This eliminates a whopping 13 rows. So I'm going to just number them, and you sit in that order, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That leaves only 5 rows. If you're not in the last 5 rows, please be seated. And finally, about 17% of our world cannot read. And only about 65% will have the opportunity to have a secondary school education. Will 3 more rows please be seated? Class of 2021. Look around you. Look at who's standing. This is where you are situated today, in our world. That is how lucky you are to be where you are today. For most of you, I would have eliminated even more of that row, given the privileges that you've had. In many ways, life is a lottery. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose the context we're born into. So the question presents itself. And thanks, back row, y'all can sit. What is our purpose? Can you internalize a level of gratitude for your immense blessings and a humility to understand that luck of the draw in our world has empowered you? Can you internalize a level of gratitude and humility that allows you to maintain focus in living up to your purpose? Our world is overwhelmed with need. We struggle with human greed, racism, extreme versions of individualism and capitalism, white supremacy, growing wealth gaps, disease, climate crisis, extreme poverty amidst luxury and waste right next door. And the list goes on. You all know this. Nuestro mundo no es justo. ¿Cuál será su legado? عالمنا مليء بالظلم. ماذا ستكون بصمتك؟ ما هو تأثيرك? As you take your next steps in life, you will face many distractions and influences that push you to sell your soul rather than to spend it. The world will try to convince you that your worth is tied to how much you make, how much you produce. Desperation and a desire to live a better life than the one you had might pressure you to subscribe to causes you don't even believe in and to devote your lives to them. The pursuit of fame, power, or comfort may lead you in directions you never saw yourself following. So I ask you, not just as high schoolers, not just as graduates, but as the Justice class of 2021, as a unique microcosm of our world that seeks to make more of themselves than the average, that holds themselves to a higher standard. What is your purpose? What kind of human being will you choose to shape yourself to be? You might think I could have done this or should have done that over the course of the past 4 years. And each of you is a tremendous success for all that you have learned and worked through. Today you graduate school after focusing on yourself for 4 years. What will matter for you tomorrow? When time is up, when you graduate from life, what will have mattered to you? The world is waiting for every single one of you to lead. Sé la luz para los demás. Kun nuran lil akharin. I'm going to keep it real, and I know I've gone a little long. I've come to see that one of the hardest things to do in leadership is actually to keep hope alive. And I know that's really counterintuitive. We must believe that even when barriers seem immensely great, even when it feels justice may never be reached, we must have hope. To see that tunnel of light, as small and dim as it may seem, to lead others forward. You did this too. Over the 4 years, even when you didn't see that tunnel, that light at the end of the tunnel, you are now on the other side. And in building up that hope, let compassion for your fellow human beings, not anger or rage, and believe me, this is hard to do, fuel you through that tunnel first, and then guide you to hold the flashlight for others. Be the light you seek to see empowerment from. And I find it particularly interesting that Max had a similar message to offer today. Our world is unfair. It's not always just. But your truth, your courage, and your path to uplift those who are not heard will leave you on the right side of history. No matter how many haters emerge, I'm sure you've encountered them yourselves. And believe me, they're a sign you're unsettling the status quo towards justice. Just consider them your cheerleaders of another breed. When they try to bury you, remind them you are a seed. Cuando intenten enterrarte, recuérdales que eres una semilla. عندما يحاولون دفنك ذكرهم أنك بذرة. This works when your validation, class of 2021, your validation is from within. Because you know who you are, you know your purpose, and this is how you do not waver. This is how you set an example for the entire county. This is how you stay true and lead with courage and radical empathy, even when every part of your being may scream in rage for the ways others have wronged you. That same hope is the hope of the student stuttering. It's the hope of struggling through problems for a better future. That's the hope of the mami and papi who left everything behind to come to a foreign land so that her kids can walk across the stage today. Necesitamos tener la misma esperanza de la mamá que lo dejó todo para venir a un país extranjero, para que sus hijos puedan caminar hoy por el escenario. That's the hope of the child forced to question and hate the faith they love because of bullying. هذا أمل الطفل المجبر على تشكيك وكره دينه وهويته الذي يعزها بسبب التنمر والعنصرية. It's the hope of every one of you who knows the pain of discrimination, who knows the pain of someone laughing at your parents' accent, or at your friend's sense of style. Esa es la esperanza por la que vale la pena luchar. هذا هو الأمل الذي يستحق الجهاد من أجله والمبادرة للحصول عليه. That is the hope we must lead with and remind ourselves and others of this hope even when we don't believe it ourselves. So, class of 2021, do we dare to hope? Justice, class of 2021. We need you. My future children and all of our progeny need you. Our world needs you. Class of 2021, I want you to look at the person next to you. Smile at them. I know this is cheesy, y'all. Hang in there, okay? Smile like you really mean it, though. A congratulations from your heart to someone who life simply happened to place you next to today. By chance, someone who you may not have known before, someone who likely has so much that is different than you, but someone who you can love, who you can care for, and who you can build for with our next generation with. Start your journey for justice with this smile. Let your smile radiate hope as you carry the power of your purpose. Let it inspire a righteousness in you that is rooted in courage, in empathy, in a reality informed by your most beautiful character. The language of a smile is one everyone understands, one the whole world can speak. You are the Justice Class of 2021. I can't wait for the world my children will grow up in under your leadership. Congratulations, felicidades, mabruk.